Hello and welcome to Pillar of Origins. I'm your host Jonah, also known as Dualcast Gaming. With me is a wonderful guest. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Keith Brown, mostly known online as Keithulu Cards.
And where can everyone find you online?
You can find me at Keithulu Cards, Keithulhu. I had to spell it correctly and make myself really hard to find online. But I'm there on Twitter, on TikTok, on Instagram, Facebook, just about anywhere you can find me, I'll be there.
Awesome. So let's just get started. My first question of the day is, how did you get started with Magic the Gathering, the card game?
Well, my cousin got me into it, as a short answer. The longer answer is we were just getting out of a movie at the theater when I was I think I was like 11, 10 years old. And the theater that we went to was part of the city's mall, which is completely falling apart now. But, back 20 years ago, it was a lot better. I don't remember what movie it is that we were getting out of, but my cousin ran down to the bottom floor of the theater after getting out, and I followed because I was curious, and there was a little shop just set into one of the mall areas, and it was a local game store. It had a bunch of cards, gaming area. There was a little tournament going on at the time, and my cousin was sitting there watching games playing, and he kind of introduced me to Magic the Gathering. With that, I bugged my mom enough that she gave me $20 so that I could buy a theme deck, and I bought the Kamigawa Spiritcraft theme deck from that.
Oh, wow. So your first set was Kamigawa?
Yep, Betrayers of Kamigawa.
Wow, that's a hot topic right now.
I know. I'm so excited for Neon Dynasty. You have no idea. I own 4 different ninja decks.
Oh my god.
And yeah, I'm real excited.
Yeah, they just this morning showed a tweet for Mark Rosewater talking about the set, and they showed off the Spirit Dragons. So apparently the Spirit Dragons are coming back.
Oh yeah. Yep. I almost guarantee that ninjas are going to come back as well. There have been a lot of signpost cards that don't make sense in the context of the current standard metagame unless you take into account the idea that ninjutsu might be coming back as a mechanic, at which point suddenly all of these weird, bizarre rares make a lot more sense.
Yeah, like Grazilax.
Exactly, yep.
That's the one everyone's pointing to, like, oh, this means ninjutsu.
Yep.
So, your first set with the theme boosters, you went to the LGS. Was there any kind of lulls, or did you just start with that and get right into it?
Well, I was hooked mostly by the art. I mean, I was pretty young at the time. I didn't know anything about the rules of the game. My cousin was a terrible teacher. So I basically didn't know anything about how to play the game. My cousin won every single game that we would play against each other because he knew how to play the game, and I was trying to pretend to learn and didn't know anything about it. But I was completely hooked by the artwork. The art on these cards was absolutely gorgeous. Some of the artwork for those Spiritcraft cards originally, absolutely gorgeous stuff. Loam Dweller is still some of my favorite artwork of all time. I have a copy sitting at my desk that just stays with me while I'm working on my art. And it seems appropriate that the art was what first drew me into the game, considering what I do.
Yeah. For those who don't know, do you want to tell everyone what kind of stuff you do with magic art nowadays?
Yeah, so I take artwork of Magic the Gathering cards, and I turned them into 3D paper toll pieces. That's kind of the correct name for it, but shadow box, 3D altars, paper 3D decoupage, a whole bunch of different names get thrown around for what the hobby is, but basically I'll just take consecutive layers of the artwork of a card, cut them out individually, and kind of embellish them, shape them, and glue them back together to put them in as really, really, really high concept pieces of art. I've done some really cool stuff in the past. I did Wheel of Sun and Moon and turned it into a clock. A functioning clock that tracks the seconds and the minutes. Couldn't get the hour. Couldn't quite get enough space in there, but it is a functional clock.
Yeah, that's amazing. I forget the name of the angel you did recently, but the one where you did each and every feather. I was seeing all your progress pictures on Twitter, and I was just amazed at the level of patience you must have had for that.
That one was a lot of work, a lot more work than I had expected originally, to be honest. But the client was really happy with it. I was absolutely thrilled by it as well, and ended up kind of going viral on TikTok as well from it. So that one was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely a thumbnail right there. I cut out every single feather on some wings.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and after finishing the wings, it was only about halfway finished. So
yeah,
there was still a lot more to do.
Yeah, that's the level of patience you have is just head and shoulders above a lot of the other. Basically, I mean, I do some hand painted altars, some other stuff, but you know that's that I can finish that in an afternoon. The level you need to do for what you do is just ridiculous.
Thank you.
So speaking of going viral, at what point did you really feel like you were kind of part of the Magic community?
Well, that... There are a lot of different points. I definitely do feel like I'm pretty rooted into the Magic community these days. I feel like I am more of a fixture, at least of certain parts of it now. But back when I first started working on this, it was just as a little hobby with a few friends who would occasionally pay me to do a full art basic land, stuff like that. I did just acrylic painted altars originally when I started, and then I had heard about 3D altering from a few people, and there was an episode actually of the Command Zone that widely was considered kind of a weird off base episode, just because it wasn't about Commander at all, but it was about creativity and just kind of how to motivate yourself to be more creative, how to kind of get the drive to do whatever creative project you've been putting off. And at the end of the episode, they made a call to everyone to just kind of like, if you have this creative project that you're interested in doing, something that you've been putting off, something that you want to do but haven't managed to find the time, please go do that. Take the time, make the time, whatever you need to do, just do that thing. And with that, I finally found the motivation to do my first 3D altar. And that was, what's her name? Saskia the Unyielding. That's it.
Ooh.
I got a bunch of the oversized foil cards for Saskia.
Yeah.
As they were all like 25 cents. And with the oversized art, it was a lot easier to do than normal. It was a really easy first attempt, and I finished it up, posted it, and tagged Jimmy and Josh on that, saying, hey, thank you so much. They kind of they replied on it, kind of boosted it a lot more than it normally would, and got a lot more attention. And the person who wrote the tutorial article that taught me how to make 3D altars in the first place saw that, reached out to me and said, "Hey, where are you from? Who are you? I've never heard of your work. This is really good. Like, how long have you been doing this?" And I said this was the first one I'd ever done. And he kind of took me under his wing and taught me a lot more in depth about how to do this than any one article could.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it took me a while, but then after that, I got a couple of posts on Twitter that got pretty popular. A couple hundred likes, then a couple thousand, and it just kind of gradually came in. But that was really when I felt like I was comfortably part of the community in one way or another, when the person who inadvertently, passively taught me how to do this hobby in the first place kind of came in and said, "Hey, you know what? Let me help you out here." And that's kind of my goal now. I know how important that was to me, so I always like providing, offering myself as a source, as someone who'd be happy to help and mentor anybody who'd like to work on this hobby or any other card altering or projects.
Yeah, because I know you have the Discord server for. It serves as a great resource for all sorts of altars and both acrylic, 3D, all the different mediums. I'm actually part of it, and it really is a great resource, because when I was doing just regular acrylic altars, and I looked at some of your 3D stuff, and even I was thinking like, oh hey, maybe I can try one of these old projects here.
Yeah, give it a shot. I'd be happy to help out. Just let me know if you'd ever like to try it out.
Yeah, that's I just think it's awesome that you have the Discord server to like help show people and all that. It's really awesome.
Thank you.
How many 3D altars do you think you've done over the course of you doing these?
Honestly, not as many as it feels like. It takes me a lot of time to get this going, and until very recently, like last month, I was doing this just as a hobby. During my free time, I would put together a couple of cards, a quarter. Like I did not make very many. Maybe total so far, I've done possibly 25, but that still might be more than I actually have done. Like, I haven't done very many cards at all. My goal is not to make a lot of cards, but to make, like, the very best of whatever artwork it is that I use. I just want to be I want to be challenging myself constantly.
Yeah.
With whatever it is that I do.
On topic of art, you work with all the art of Magic cards basically as your medium. Is there one artist in particular that you enjoy using his artwork more, or that stands out to you?
I really, really, really love Raymond Swanland's work. It's so much fun to use. All of the jagged edges and the strong lines and powerful silhouettes that are created in Raymond's artwork really, really look incredible on paper, but then, I mean, they get magnified tenfold when you put them into a 3D project. It absolutely looks gorgeous. One of the most recent projects that I've finished, Thermo Alchemist, is from Raymond Swanland, and
I forgot that's a Swanland art. Yeah, that's so good. I saw it, and I definitely agree with what you mean by his silhouettes and all the stuff that he does. Even like some of the simpler work, like one of my favorites is actually Joint Assault,
Hmm.
where it shows the Cathar and the werewolf on Innistrad, and it really plays with the depth of the box there.
Oh yeah. Oddly enough, my very favorite card that I've ever altered is from an extremely obscure Magic the Gathering artist who. Sorry, I had to step away for just a second, but his name is Yosu Hernais. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but it's from the showcase storybook artwork from Eldraine for Curious Pair. And that artwork, because of just how like flat and illustrated it looks on the card, plus the absolutely gorgeous storybook frame, it looks absolutely incredible in 3D. I have never been happier with the transition from a 2D paper artwork to a 3D card than in this one.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at it right now, and I can definitely see how that's going to be really good.
Sorry, I know this is an audio podcast.
I know it's
format,
so difficult to
it's
do
a little
that.
difficult to be talking about how gorgeous the artwork looks when, we're going to need to ask the listeners to
Yeah, and I'll probably
pull up
pop.
pictures.
Yeah, I'll probably pop something up on screen each of these times. I'll just put a little editor note.
Cool.
But yeah, that's I really like your choices of artists there. It's funny because that's the Curious Pair. The normal artwork is by my personal favorite artist of Darkin.
Oh yeah, Darkin's really good too.
Yeah, that's funny.
I don't think I've done any artwork by Darkin. I'll have to take a look at my portfolio again, but don't really have time for that right now.
Yeah.
I'll take a look.
Speaking of your portfolio, what portfolio is that? Is that a bunch of cards you have set aside, or?
Oh no, I mean I on my Twitter page I have a pinned tweet where I try to I haven't updated it in a bit, but it's a pinned tweet where I have my full list of all of the work that I've done in the past, going through every card that I've made, just detailing the process, what I enjoyed about that card, what made it a challenge, what of it improved my skills or kind of showcased how I could do this artwork or this hobby differently.
Yeah.
It. I think I haven't updated it for. Oh goodness, I haven't updated it in about a year,
Oh.
but it's got a good list of cards in it already.
Oh
I
yeah.
need to update that soon. I've only done about 7 or 8 cards this entire year so far, so we'll need to go back and that. But that's what I consider my portfolio right now, until I have a more proper place where I hold all of my artwork. Working on a website slowly. That's kind of my database of, hey, here's everything I've done.
Yeah. That's awesome. I noticed a few standouts on there, and you mentioned stuff about it being certain ones being more difficult than others. Is there any specific one there that kind of gave you a challenge that others didn't?
I mean, that's kind of my whole thing. That's my whole shtick, is just doing something that challenges me more than any of the other previously did. I could say that with every single one I've done, I tried to push myself way beyond my expected ability at the time. One of the cards that pops out to me immediately is Infinity Elemental.
Oh.
I did Seb McKinnon's Infinity Elemental pretty early on. I mean, that was the, let me see, 1, 2, 3. That was the 6th card I ever made, was Infinity Elemental, where the artwork spirals backwards infinitely, and then rather than just making the Infinity Elemental figure itself just out of paper, I really wanted to try to challenge myself and kind of play with the idea of what the Infinity Elemental was doing, which was punching itself out of the artwork of the card. And so I decided to sculpt the Infinity Elemental freehand and set it into the frame of the card as though it was, and it did become a multimedia art piece.
Yeah, 'cause I was gonna say I haven't really seen anyone do kind of sculpting with the 3D altars like that. 'Cause when I saw that, that's kind of the first time I've seen anything other than just, like curving the paper or anything like that.
That one was a really big challenge for me. I had a lot of fun with it. It was the first video of mine, the first post of mine that really, really got a lot of traction. The original video of it got almost 1,000 likes on Twitter, which was like absolutely mind-blowing to me at the time. Now that I've gotten like multiple videos on TikTok with hundreds of thousands of likes each, it doesn't quite feel the same, but it makes me laugh now, looking back and being like, 890 likes, what is this? But I'm still really proud of it. It was kind of one of the first things that a lot of people saw from me.
Yeah. I mean, I've just been gushing over all your work this whole time. I can't really think of anything that I see, and I'm just like, man, that doesn't really look good. But
That's my goal.
I know artists can be kind of critical on themselves. Is there a piece that you've kind of finished and you weren't really happy with the way it turned out?
Oddly enough, Wheel of Sun and Moon. I'm still incredibly proud of that project. I'm really happy with it. Wheel of Sun and Moon is the one that I turned into a clock.
Yeah.
But I am still a little saddened by it, because despite how incredibly high concept that piece was, cutting out every single piece of filigree, weaving the braids of hair into each other, like I weaved paper together to get that project finished. And yet, it originally was a higher concept piece than even a clock. I originally had intended for it to be an extremely intricate, self-adjusting decimal counter so that I could use it as a life counter during my games. And the goal of it was that I would be able to spin a single wheel, and the entire mechanical function of the card would be based on that. So there would be a lot of gear work involved on, underneath the artwork. So
Right.
I would spin the ones counter on this life counter, and every time it got up to 9 and then spun back to 0, the 10s would tick up by 1. And in addition to that, the wheel on the Wheel of Sun and Moon would also spin accordingly. It was possible, but some timing delays and some other issues resulted in that not actually coming to fruition. And although I do still have a goal of making that counter, that life counter, it is probably going to have to wait for a little bit longer before it sees the light of day.
Yeah, that is an ambitious project. I'll say that much for sure. Wow.
It was a lot. I admit, I kind of may have accidentally shot for the moon a little bit too hard there, but hey, I still landed in the stars, right?
Yeah, you still did amazing on that piece. I mean, most people when they do those like 3D shadow boxes, and if they do life totals, it's always like the little beads on the bar, and those look great.
I've never been happy with them.
And
I know they look good, but I've never been happy with those.
I know, and you're just like, no, I'm just gonna do an entire mechanical machine underneath my altar. It's fine. Darn it, I made a clock instead. That's that's
I
great.
go a little hard sometimes.
You don't say. So, do you do any kind of how am I saying this? Do you still play Magic itself, or do you just do the cards at this point?
Oh yeah, I'm way too much of a Magic junkie. I have 25 commander decks, if I remember, at the time of recording. That may have changed since I last took count. I'm constantly building and taking apart commander decks. It's really hard for me to take them apart, so I just keep building more. It's a bit of a problem. Originally, actually, my commissions from this, back when I was not doing this professionally, when it was just a hobby, which was the majority of the time that I've been doing it over the past 5 years, the money that I would make from commissions would go directly into paying for this hobby.
I mean, that's a good way to separate it, right?
Right? Yeah. So I have quite a lot of stuff. The two formats that I particularly enjoy playing are Commander and Draft in just about any form. So I own 2 cubes that are currently built. I am in the process of building 2 other cubes, in addition to all of the Commander decks that I have.
What kind of cubes are they?
So I have got the original cube that I built was a Pauper cube, but I took that one apart. I just didn't want to keep updating it over and over again with all of the new sets.
Yeah.
I was not happy with it. But the 2 cubes that I now have are a silver bordered cube, which I am probably not going to update much with the new the new Unfinity stuff, just because I like to keep it as silver bordered as possible. I'll probably stick in a few of the best, of the greatest hits from that set, but we'll keep it pretty pristine. And then the other cube that I have is a Commander cube. Oddly enough,
Best of both worlds.
I used to have over 30 Commander decks, like well over 30 Commander decks, approaching 40, and I realized that I was never ever going to build or play all of them in a year, much less a month. So I took apart a bunch of them, slimmed down to a mere 15 Commander decks.
And just some chump change.
And then took all of the cards from those decks that I had torn apart, figured out how to mesh the themes together effectively, and kind of used those as the foundation of my Commander cube, which is now kind of my baby. I am constantly updating and working on it, and it's kind of my biggest passion project in the hobby right now.
That's really cool. Any kind of standout like strategies or anything that you particularly enjoy for that cube, or?
I have a lot of fun getting proxies and custom cards and altars for the cube, so I really enjoy some of the custom cards that I put together for it. The biggest weird theme that the cube has is a morph sub-theme. The idea behind it is that there is a special mechanic exclusive to my cube that any card with morph has no color identity.
Oh.
So although you may...
Okay, so we just had a internet connection issue. Back on track. You said your
Yeah.
your cube has a special rule about morph cards being colorless?
Yeah, so they basically have no color identity. Like, they are not technically colorless. You can still cast. You still have to cast them for the mana that they cost. If you want to cast them face up or turn them face up after playing them as a morph creature. But I find that one of the biggest issues with Commander Draft in general is just that it feels really bad when all you can do is just play the Prismatic Piper as one of your commanders. Like, 2 copies of the Prismatic Piper are the worst possible version of a commander that you could have. So, one of the ways that I wanted to fix that was by creating a lot of cards in the cube that could be played by any color identity whatsoever. And it turned out that the best way to do that was to kind of adjust the rules of morph slightly for the context of the cube and allow people to play with those.
That's pretty cool. So, I know you said you have about 25 commander decks at this point now, right?
Mm-hmm. Just a few.
Yeah, just a few.
Problem at all.
Which ones do you play the most?
My favorite commander decks are the 4 ninja decks that I have. I'm a Kamigawa junkie, like I said. I like building really quirky, weird decks. I do have a lot of like relatively straightforward standard decks. I have an Angel Tribal deck. I've got a Walls deck with Arcades the Strategist. I've got a Bear Tribal deck. Stuff like that. Stuff that kind of plug and play.
Right.
But my bread and butter is the bizarre theme decks that I can put together. I really like playing with powerful cards, but I don't like playing powerful decks. So instead, what I do is I put together a really terrible strategy, really awful strategy that cannot succeed very well in Commander, and then play the very best cards of that strategy that I can possibly get my hands on.
Yeah.
So one of the Commander decks that I have, probably my baby, my very favorite Commander deck is Commander. It's Admiral Beckett Brass is the commander of the deck, who is a pirate tribal commander. Costs 4 mana, is a 3/3, gives other pirates you control +1/+1, and then has this ability that I've literally never used, never ever ever activated it or triggered it, I guess. Where at the beginning of your end step, you gain control of a non-land permanent of a non-land permanent owned by a player who was dealt damage by 3 or more pirates this turn. It's a terrible ability. It almost never happens. I've never been able to make it happen. But the deck is a standard pirate deck until you get to the last about 10 cards, where the last handful of cards in the deck are ninjas. And so the name of the deck is totally normal pirates. There's absolutely nothing going on with them whatsoever. The thing that I discovered about pirates is that you really want a lot of effects in pirates that have them entering the battlefield over and over again, because a ton of pirates have really good enter the battlefield abilities. A lot of those same pirates are really evasive.
Okay.
And like extremely evasive and very cheap and very fast. Like, there is a pirate that is just 3 mana for a 2/2 with haste and unblockable. And it's perfect for a ninja's deck. And the more I was putting together this pirates deck, the more I was trying to find effects that would allow me to have cards that both let me recast recast my pirates, have really good combat, like combat damage effects, and just generally be very evasive. And it turned out that ninjas fit the bill perfectly. So even though it's a probably a worse pirate deck than I would have if I just went hard on the pirates, buffing them up, getting all of the tribal effects that I can, and just making them big, nasty pirates that steal stuff. I instead decided to go with this bizarre deck where I am replaying enter the battlefield abilities constantly, getting a whole bunch of different combat triggers to occur, sneak attacking my pirates out onto the battlefield, and then ninjutsuing them back before the sneak attack sacrifice trigger could occur. It's the weirdest deck that I have, and I absolutely love it. The other 3 ninja decks that I have, I won't go into nearly as much detail. I've probably monologued.
I mean, I was going to say for that one, you probably could have just said, it's Ninja Pirates, and I would have been perfectly happy to have you kick my butt with it.
I talk way too much about these decks. I am way too happy about them.
I mean, that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, definitely. We need to get in a couple of games. I'd love to show you the Ninja Pirate deck. But I also have zombie pirates and robot pirates, both of which kind of read. It does what it says on the tin. It's a zombie tribal deck with ninjas in it. Don't let me explain why. It takes a long time to explain. And then there's also robot ninjas, which makes even less sense. It's just an artifact synergy deck that is made significantly worse by trying to shoehorn ninjas into the deck. It was basically born out of the idea of how can I get Solemn Simulacrum to trigger as many times as possible in an artifact deck. It's terrible.
You're abusing that poor sad robot.
It's way too much fun.
That does sound like a lot of fun. I love your deck building ideas here, where you take a terrible strategy and then just put as much synergy and good cards in there as possible.
It's very fun. That Robot Ninjas deck has, like, oh god, what's it called? See, I thought I knew the name of it, and then I completely forgot. The modular card, the one, the dog.
Yeah.
Arcbound Ravager. That's the name.
Oh, it actually has Ravager. Yeah.
Yeah, Arcbound Ravager in there. Like, it's got the very best that it possibly can of all of the different cards that it wants. It's just that it's a terrible strategy, and is going to be made significantly worse by just the strategy that I've chosen to attempt with the deck.
That's great. Yeah, I love that idea. My problem with me trying to do that is I have these terrible ideas, and then I try to build them, and then I look at the price tag for the cards. The one idea I've had for a long time, but I keep coming back to it, is you played during Kamigawa, you know about these, the epic spells.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to build Derevi epic spells. So the entire point of it is I will do everything. I have every single effect that will let me activate abilities and play lands, so it has a ton of utility lands, lots of copy spells. So the whole idea is I will put 3 copies of the same epic spell onto the stack, and then I just play Derevi out of the command zone, activate lands, and I hope the game goes good from there.
Nice. That sounds like...
Yeah, the problem is that he uses stuff like Hibernation's End, and like it needs a really good mana base because of all those crazy lands.
Oh yeah, No, that sounds like a lot of work to get right.
Yeah, I goldfished it, and then I looked at the price. I'm like, oh, it's just a measly $3,000 because the reserve list cards.
Mm-hmm. Play it on MTGO. It'll be about, $20 or something like that.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Yeah, I love the idea of you just having 4 different ninja decks.
Oh yeah, the fourth one is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh.
It genuinely didn't attempt. I did not try to make it that when I started. The original goal of the deck was just that I didn't know what to do with all of the mutate cards that I got from the Mutate Precon deck from Ikoria.
Yeah.
I got all 5 of them because it was a good deal when I had gotten them, and then I realized that the Mutate deck is weird, and I didn't know how to play it, and I did know how to play it, I just didn't really like how it played. It just felt like a much worse Auras deck.
Mm-hmm.
And I already had an Auras deck, so I didn't want to do that again. And then I discovered that there is a ninja that had come out in Modern Horizons, the name of which completely escapes me at the moment, but it is a 3/1 with ninjutsu, 2 and a blue. And when it deals combat damage to a player, you create a token that's a copy of it.
Yep.
So it's this ninjutsu card that will always make a copy of itself immediately, if you ninjutsu it in, because it's an unblocked attacker already past the blocking phase, the declare blocker step. But if you mutate onto that card, suddenly you're not making a bunch of copies of 3/1s. You're making a bunch of copies of 6/6s with trample and flying and 7 different mutate triggers
and they
stacked
all
on top of
happen.
each other.
Yeah, they all happen to be Ghidorah or something like that.
And then if you return the non-token version of it to your hand, all of those non-token mutate cards come back to your hand, but all of the token copies still have 7 different mutate effects stitched onto them. So then you replay all of the mutate effects onto the tokens, and now you're doubling or tripling or quadrupling your mutate effects that you are getting out of all of these cards. Ninjutsu bizarrely works really well with mutate.
Yeah.
And all I had to do after doing that was just shoehorn in a handful of turtles. And the deck, there it was suddenly. It was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The teenage is because the ninjutsu effect is over 10 years old.
Oh,
so,
God.
Don't think about it too hard. But
that's one hell of a naming convention right there.
Right.
Oh my God. That actually sounds really great. That reminds me of Tyler, the Almighty Brushwag.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've seen his Ghidorah deck.
I have not played against it, but I have definitely seen it many times.
I'm just amazed at how deep into the mutate mechanic he got with that, and that really kind of seems like what not the whole idea of, you absolutely love mutate, but just how deep into it you go with trying to get those mechanics to work.
Yeah, it's definitely less of a mutate deck and more of a ninja deck, but I have a ton of fun with it. The 2 partner commanders that came with that precon, with that mutate precon, Kazur and Ukima.
Oh yeah,
those are the commanders of that deck.
I forgot those guys are actually really good.
It turns out Ukima is actually incredible in a ninja's deck. And Kazur is also just fantastic because Kazur just makes your combat damage better. by putting +1/+1 counters on all combat triggers. Ukima is incredible though. Like 3 mana, you play Ukima, it's unblockable, and has a leaves the battlefield ability. My favorite thing to do ever when I'm playing that deck is to play Ukima, mutate any number of cards onto Ukima, turning Ukima into like a 6/6, attacking, then pulling Ukima back from ninjutsu, dealing 6 functionally lifelink damage to that player that I'm attacking, and then also ninjutsuing in another card, doing functionally double combat damage that round. Ukima is absolutely fantastic, and anybody who has a ninja deck should play Ukima in it, bar none.
Yeah, leaves the battlefield abilities are somewhat rare, but they seem super good there.
They really are.
Yeah, wow. You have a lot of ninjas.
Oh yeah. Don't ask me about how expensive they all are. I don't want to think about it.
I already know a couple of them are stupid expensive.
I hate Sakashima's student for how expensive it is.
I was just about to
say. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, that's, yeah. So, Neon Dynasty is getting released very soon. Does that mean you're going to have another 3 ninja decks?
Probably. I already am putting together at least one other ninja deck, and it's going to be Wizard Ninjas.
You know, there's this game called Smash Up. I think you'd like it.
I own a copy of Smash Up. No. Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. It turns out that Inala is very good when you can bounce your wizards back to your hand and recast them to get Inala's Enter the Battlefield trigger again.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I already have plans for Neon Dynasty. I just don't have enough copies of ninjas to be able to build other ninja decks.
That's amazing, though. I've never seen that many ninja decks. I've had a couple friends that have had 2. I think I had one of them that had 3 ninja decks. You are by far the most fanatical about ninjas. I think you win the Magic Trophy for ninjas at this point.
It's by far my favorite mechanic. I even before I started playing Commander, I had a ninja deck and absolutely loved it. It's just kind of been something that I've always enjoyed. That and Spiritcraft. I love me a Spiritcraft deck.
So, we're just about done, but is there anything specific that you want to talk about on this? Anything that you kind of want to bring up? Any future projects you're working on?
I am going full time, so kind of my big thing at the moment is just trying to make sure that I get enough traction that I can properly do this full time. I definitely get enough commissions, but Patreon is kind of my big thing. So I hate to plug this on your podcast, but hey,
I'm more than welcome to. Artists need to eat.
Yeah, if anybody has enjoyed the conversation or likes the art that I make, now more than ever, I really do need the support. It's been an interesting journey to get to this point, but now as I'm finally transitioning, after 5 years of doing this as a hobby, transitioning into full-time work, it's an interesting challenge and forward to it.
Yeah, I'll be the first to say, please follow this man's Patreon if you can support $1. Even that, it's totally worth it. Every work that he does is just great.
Thank you.
On that note, I think we're all done for today. I would love to have you on again sometime in the future.
Absolutely. We'll need to get in a Commander game.
Oh, yeah.
Before then.
Yeah, I'll be happy to get crushed by pirate ninjas. All right. Well, this has been Jonah and Keithulu Cards. This is Pillar of Origins, and I will see everyone next time.